5-Minute Philosophy Episode 1. Thank you very much for watching today's episode, where we will talk about Friedrich Nietzsche, one of the great German philosophers, and his book Human All Too Human. The first chapter of this book, entitled About the First and the Last Things, Nietzsche discusses his ideas of the metaphysical world and of God or the gods. The metaphysical world, just to avoid any misunderstanding here, is the world which is not known to us and not measurable for us by scientific means. And in this regard, God could be seen as a metaphysical being. Now, we will start with the excerpt, then evaluate and interpret it, and in the end we will draw some conclusions as to what Nietzsche might be telling us here. So this is part 9 of the first chapter, the metaphysical world. It is true that there could be a metaphysical world. The absolute possibility of its existence is hardly disputable. We view all things through a human mind and cannot sever this mind. Yet the question remains, what of the world would still remain if we had severed it? This is a purely scientific problem and not particularly likely to cause people concern. But everything that has so far made metaphysical assumptions valuable, terrifying, or pleasurable to people, everything that has produced them is passion, error, and self-deception. The very worst methods of knowledge, not the very best, have led people to believe in them. Once these methods, as the foundation of all existing religions and metaphysics, have been exposed, they have been refuted. Then that possibility still remains, but one can do absolutely nothing with it, let alone allow happiness, salvation, and life to depend on the thin threads of such a possibility. For one could say nothing at all about the metaphysical world, except that it is other, an otherness inaccessible and incomprehensible to us. It would be a thing with negative properties. Even if the existence of such a world were proven beyond the shadow of a doubt, it would still be certain that the most trivial of all insights would be precisely this insight. Even more trivial than the knowledge of the chemical composition of water must be to a sailor in the midst of a storm. That was the excerpt. So, Nietzsche does not deny the existence of a metaphysical world. He says it might exist and it might as well not. Now, what has been translated here as mind, when we are talking about the human mind cannot sever this mind, if literally translated would be to remove the head, that we cannot remove the human head from our perceptions. And please do not remove any heads. Do not remove your own head. Do not remove anyone else's head. Please don't. Well, Officer Tom on 5-Minute Philosophy told me that Nietzsche suggested to remove a human head for scientific purposes. That won't work. And I studied law, I should know. So, obviously I didn't study philosophy, right? If I had, I would have all the answers. Clearly I don't. So, that would be a lot easier, right? So, men think about this metaphysical world, but they see it through their own lens, right? They see it from their own perspective, and that perspective, according to Nietzsche, must be faulty because it's our perspective on something that is unlike what we know, right? So it is unlike what we can perceive as well, and therefore our base for this appreciation of the metaphysical world would be faulty. It would be, as Nietzsche claims, based on self-deception and passion, and therefore our perception cannot be right. So he comes to the conclusion that we can only think about the metaphysical world in a negative form. So that means that we can only conclude that it's different from what we know, but we cannot positively conclude that it is in a certain way. So that doesn't get us very far, right? It's different from what we know, but it could be everything except for what we know, right? and that's not going to get us very far. That's basically, in my eyes, Nietzsche's conclusion here. He claims that we don't know for sure about the characteristics of the metaphysical world. And the same would be true for the characteristics of a potential god or for gods inhabiting this metaphysical world. We don't know about gods. We do not know about God's characteristics. Thus, we also don't know what God wants us to do in this life, right? We might have an idea, but there is no way to evaluate which of the different ideas that we might have in this respect is more likely to be appropriate than the other ones, which one is more likely to be true, which one is likely to be most valid. So therefore my conclusion would be that mankind, and us individually, we need to come to our own conclusions about this. We need to come to our own conclusions about what to do in this life based on our values, based on our interpretation of things, and not based on God's values, as God's values remain unknown to us. Let me know what you think in the comments about this episode, about the excerpt, about the reasoning, and please like the video if it resonated with you. Subscribe to the channel, and I'm very much hoping to see you again next week for the second episode of 5 Minute Philosophy. Have a great day, have a great week, and ciao ciao.